Hey gang, it's Chris from Ecoustics. I'm here at Samsung's headquarters in New Jersey, checking out the 2026 lineup of flagship TVs, including the brand new S95H QD-OLED TV. I shouldn't say QD-OLED because not all the panels are necessarily going to be QD-OLED, but it is their flagship OLED for 2026. And as with last year, it does feature Samsung's glare-free screen, which is a light-absorbing coating. So even in a bright room like this, you're not seeing a lot of glare on the screen, which is really nice if you happen to watch TV in bright rooms. And it's an improvement on the earlier generations of the glare-free screen so that it doesn't sacrifice too much in the way of black levels, while it still does quite a bit reduce the ambient light reflecting off the screen, which can be really annoying when you're watching TV with, say, the window open and the lights on. It's a 165 hertz native panel, and we're seeing it in a 65-inch size. It will be available up to 83 inches, I believe, is going to be the highest size available. But the big change this year is in the actual form factor of the design. It's got this integrated frame, which is actually part of the TV. So this is not like the Samsung The Frame TV, which has a replaceable or removable frame that you can put on the outside. This whole like floating design is all integrated into one piece. And one of the other big changes, I should say, they made in 2026 is they took the requirement to have a separate One Connect box, the box that accepts all your HDMI inputs like your gaming console, streaming sticks, PC, whatever you want to connect to the TV, in a separate box and require you to run a cable, like maybe inside the wall to connect to the TV. Now, like a regular TV, all of the HDMI ports are integrated into the TV, but they are so well hidden that you can't even tell they're there when the TV is mounted on the wall. And that makes them a little hard to access if you want to actually change what's connected to the TV. But they've thought of that, and when this goes into production, it's going to come with a couple of these little feet/spacers that allow the TV to be pulled out from the wall a little bit, and then you can actually access the HDMI ports in the back, and yet you're not sacrificing this whole kind of flush installed on the wall design that we're seeing here. So it's a cool new design, and it also reinforces the fact that this is the first time Samsung is offering Art Store access in their OLED TVs. And what we're seeing here right now is actually Art Store images that are being delivered from the Samsung Art Store. If you want to use this feature to display artwork on the TV when you're not watching a movie, it's free to use up to about, I think, 30 images per month. But if you want the premium access to 5,000 plus pieces of art, that's about $6 a month, or no, $5 a month, or $50 a year. So if you want to take full access of the Art Store, there is an additional subscription fee. That's the way it is. Gamers will be happy to hear that it's a 165 hertz native panel with access to FreeSync, G-Sync, all the gaming platforms. It's got all ALL to detect incoming frame rate and optimize it on the TV. It's got a very super fast, super responsive panel. So first-person shooters will not really notice a noticeable lag when gaming on the TV, which is nice. We actually measured it a bit right out of the box, and we're kind of impressed. Okay, very impressed. It put out a peak brightness in standard mode of over 2,500 nits, like over 2,550 nits, actually, which to see on an OLED TV is quite remarkable. It's actually able to handle content that's mastered for 4,000 nits very well. It's got built-in dynamic tone mapping, of course, which maps the mastered product to the capabilities of the TV. We put on some really challenging scenes for that and saw that it did a really nice job actually mapping the HDR to fit the capabilities of the TV. And of course, as an OLED, we put on Blade Runner, watch the opening text scroll, white on black, scrolling up the screen with no blooming, no haloing, nothing, pure, beautiful black levels. We did measure about 100% of the DCI P3 color standard, which is what you find on most content today. And it did about 88% of the Rec 2020 or BT 2020 standard, which is very impressive for a TV. The only thing we've seen that's better, really, is the micro RGB, which has a little bit wider color gamut. But y'all know how I feel about OLEDs. I love them. I love the OLED blacks. I love the rich, saturated colors. We put on some really challenging scenes for motion reproduction, like the intro scene from Baby Driver and found that it did a really nice job kind of walking the line between 24p natural motion and smooth motion, and it's got all kinds of settings you can adjust for motion clarity and for jitter reduction to come up with the sweet spot of how you like film motion to be reproduced in a TV. So yeah, that's it. This is going to be the flagship, and this year the step-down model, the S90H, is also going to get the glare-free screen coating, but it's going to have a more traditional bezel design, like a slim bezel design, as opposed to this, which is kind of more of a statement piece with the integrated frame built into the TV. We've been impressed. Spent the afternoon with it. Like I said, did some measurements. Actually, we did measure a delta E below 2 on almost all colors, and the average was certainly below 2, which is excellent for any TV, and that's before any kind of calibration. That was just right out of the box in, I believe it was in filmmaker mode. So it's bright, it's color accurate, it's got deep blacks, it's got great colors. We kind of like it so far, and looking forward to giving a little closer look in the Ecoustics labs.
Hey there, how can I help you today?
Who won this game? What was the final score?
The Eisencraft SV team secured a victory against SV Hauptstadt Adler, finishing the match with a score of 4-2.
What's one place I should check out in Berlin?
Okay, here's my recommendation.
What we have here is the S90H OLED TV from Samsung. It's second from their top of the line. It includes the same panel and the same processing from the flagship S95H, but a little bit lower brightness, doesn't have quite the peak brightness that the big brother has, and a different industrial design. So whereas the S95H comes in that floating frame with the frame around it that makes it look a little like artwork, this one is a more traditional thin bezel design, as we're used to seeing from Samsung and other TV makers. What's different this year is in the 90 model, which is again second from the top in the OLED line, they've applied the glare-free screen coating, the glare-free technology that allows this TV to be viewable even in a pretty brightly lit room. We've got lights right overhead, and you can see there's almost no reflection on the screen itself. So that's something they've brought down to the second from the flagship. It also appears in their frame TVs and in their micro RGB LED LCD TVs. So it's something you're going to see consistently across the board, glare-free technology. If you like the idea of an OLED but would prefer a glossy screen, then the S85H will be available and will offer more of a gloss kind of screen finish without the matte, without the glare-free technology built in. But like its big brother, the S95H, this is a 165 Hertz native panel, which makes it great for game reproduction, motion reproduction from sports like soccer and tennis and hockey and football and anything in which you have fast-moving balls and objects. And great for gaming as well, since it is 165 Hertz. Now, one other thing that you won't see on the S90H, the S95H has the option to go wireless with a connection to a wireless One Connect box. This one is more traditional. It's got all the HDMI ports embedded into the TV on the side, like you see on most TVs, without the option to upgrade to that wireless One Connect box. And also, it's a little bit lower in peak brightness. So we measured this with our trusty Calman software to peak out at about 1300 nits, just a little under in filmmaker mode in a 10% window, measuring a white pattern, 10% of the screen, and about 1200 nits or so in a standard mode. Now, remember, these are initial tests. Didn't do any tweaking to the TV itself, reset the picture modes, just put it in default out of the box. So it's what a customer would see if they select the filmmaker mode or the standard mode on the TV. That's about what the peak is going to be. Now, it does include dynamic tone mapping, so if you're watching 4000 nit mastered content, it can map it really well to the capabilities of the TV. And also, one thing that really stands out about this TV is the color accuracy is spot on. Now, we're talking a delta E of around 2 under 2 in many of the measurements, and just a tiny bit over 2 in 1 or 2 of the colors that we measured. So a delta E of 2 is excellent. It's considered reference quality. And this one's got it, again, right out of the box using the default picture modes. So it's going to come in screen sizes from 55-inch to 83 inches. Again, what this is offering is a matte glare-free screen in an OLED, deep black levels that we love, excellent color accuracy and color saturation. And we're sure it's going to be a much more affordable price point than the step-up S95H. So if you're looking for an OLED with the matte screen, with HDR10+, with the deep blacks that we love so much from OLED TVs, but you don't want to pay up for the premium of the S95H, or you're not a fan of that more artistic design with the frame around the edge, we think the S90H is going to be a great choice for that. So thanks for stopping by, and when we have more details, we will let you know.